So, hi, Ravit. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Holly Brady. I'm one of the steering committee members of the Canadian Collaborative Rocky Mountain Conference 2025, as you already know. Before we dive into your story, what really excites you most about being part of the Canadian Collaborative Rocky Mountain Conference this November?
So thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm very excited because I'm a big believer in collaboration in general. This is something that I've been talking about for years now and telling professionals that your business should not be a one-man show. And if it is, you're losing a lot of business in the meantime. So what I love about this conference is that it is open to anyone. You don't have to be part of a collaborative group. You don't have to be a certain kind of professional. It's open to training. And what it does is that it's really there to educate you so that Irooze can then go and help you market yourself and get out there in front of the parents, the consumers, so they understand what's your value, what's the wisdom you have to share, and what are your knowledge that you can really serve them with.
I think that's wonderful. This may be derived from the collaborative movement, but we want everybody to know that they don't need to be a member of the collaborative group or trained as a collaborative professional in order to attend the conference. Would you agree?
Absolutely. That's one thing that I love about this conference is that it doesn't force you to fit in a bubble in a mold. So collaboration is you need to have the desire to work with other professionals. You need to have that open mindset of, I know I can't do everything, so I'll do what I do best. And then I will collaborate with other professionals who can fill out the gaps in the other areas so that I can best serve my client and do what I know how to do while other people are filling in those important gaps to make sure my client is able to succeed at whatever they're looking to achieve or the goals they're looking to aspire to.
That's such a more efficient and holistic approach than people really can know about, and that's why we're trying to educate people on what we can offer. So you've called yourself a divorce scientist. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means and how your own experience led you to create Irooze?
Absolutely. So I have a very nasty divorce story. It's a decade long of a very litigious, expensive $100,000 divorce process. And I learned to understand that this is nothing but a game, and a game that I didn't understand, and neither does anybody else. So fast forward, became a divorce coach, authored a book, Unwanted Nasty Divorces, and then created a platform and a community. And now we have the Irooze divorce community ecosystem. And essentially what I took is all the knowledge that I gained in the past, and I said there are so many gaps in blending and connecting professional to consumers. Professionals don't understand what the consumer is looking for. Consumers don't have any idea what professionals are out there. And I started to understand that consumers at the end of the day think that there's two people that will help them solve their divorce, lawyer and a therapist. And it's not true. You don't need that badass shark lawyer who's going to protect you and fight for you. You don't have to have a litigation divorce. The reason you're doing that is likely because you don't realize what other wonderful divorce trained professionals exist out there who can help you in better, more efficient, and more effective ways. So, my job as a divorce scientist is to understand the two worlds where we study human behavior, we understand what professionals are learning, what they're doing, and I'm always out there forward facing professionals to say, what are you doing that is so different and so unique that I can get out there and tell the consumers that you exist? So this science is really matching and connecting those two worlds together and understanding what each of the sides are looking for, what are the challenges, what are the pain points, and how to get it out there so that we could really downtrend the nasty divorce epidemic, so that we can really help families protect them from excessive legal costs, to help them save on the emotional pain, really reduce that significantly, and protect their wealth. And at the end of the day, leave a solid divorce legacy behind to their children. A legacy that will say, I had a divorce. I know it wasn't easy, but at the end of the day, the kids will say, you know what? My parents had a hard time, but they're good now. They're happy, but they could be together in the same room. And for the parents to say at the end of the day, I'm proud of the way that I divorced. I value the way that I did things, and I did it in a very mature way. And I'm very proud of the legacy that I'm leaving behind to my children. That's really what Irooze stands for. It's Ruse is a British term, stands for I praise, I commend myself. So everything that we do is about teaching them to choose solutions that make sense for them and their family. and not to follow the crowd or follow what other people did and live their life in fear that their divorce is going to have to be like everyone else's horror stories. Because we all know that that's not true. It doesn't have to be that way.
That's right. This is very impactful. And I think that if we can support that more for the whole community, not just for families, but the community, supporting each other as they're going through this process and provide them with those qualified, very valuable resources, it's going to make life a lot easier for all of us going forward. This conference is all about cultures and collaboration, and it recognizes that families are increasingly diverse, socially and culturally and economically. And to serve them well, we need practices that are inclusive, culturally responsive, and adaptable. The conference will explore how collaborative professionals can weave culture, equity, and innovation into practices that are inclusive or into our daily work. How does that idea connect with the kind of change you're working towards in the divorce world?
So we've been seeing a massive trend in consumer behavior is changing. They're not necessarily running to, the most popular Facebook nominated lawyer. We're seeing that a lot of people are starting to walk away from relying on blind trust to people that they don't know, people they don't trust. And what we do and what we focus on is stop asking random people random questions because you don't know that their answers are qualified. And they can mislead you and you will lose money. You will end up in court when you don't have to. And you will make such grand mistakes that you will regret them for a very long time. So everything we do is to really understand what is the economic situation. And some people who may have wealth may not want to spend $20,000 or $30,000 because they believe and have a strong belief system that their money should stay in their house. It should stay within the family. So they go and they look for resources, and often enough, because this Google is inundated with professionals and they don't know where to go and what to do. What we do is extract that and say, what are your goals? What do you want from your divorce? What do you want it to look like? And how can we match you and connect you with a professional who can make sure that you meet that goal? So socially, economically, all of it is important for us. And we look at the person as a whole. So we have sort of two parts to the Irooze process. Number one is we connect them to anyone related to the legal process, the lawyers, financial, anything house and home related. Then we help them in mind, body, and soul. So that means all kinds of coaches, whether they are specialists in grief or trauma or anger, or retired physicians who are now coaches, or groups for men, groups for women, specialized groups. And we also help them with parenting, career, and spiritual and energetic. So no matter what the person's needs are, we're there to help them in a whole, to understand that there are specialists who can help you and in better ways than maybe a therapist can. That there are specialists who can help you solve that particular pain point so that you can go and then make sure that your mediation works. Mediation is not just like a guarantee. You go, you walk in, and it's going to be successful. You may have to work on yourself as an individual in order to make that work. So that's where we sort of blend those two worlds together to make sure that the individual has a holistic service to their needs, to make sure that mediation or collaborative or whatever other non-litigated procedure is will actually work for them.
Yeah. And that speaks to the true collaborative spirit of what this process is all about. It takes a team to help people navigate through a really stressful time. So even though the conference is held in Canada, but it supports a global collaborative movement, how are you assisting clients from both sides of the border and abroad?
So we work with parents specifically, that's our target market, all across US and Canada. We have resources and professionals in every state, and in Canada, we focus on Ontario, Alberta, and BC. So what we do is we make sure that we find and we vet professionals who are heart-centered, resolution-oriented, who have the right mindset for these people, and to help them get through this process in the most amicable way. So that's our network is very vast and wide. If it doesn't matter because the work is remote, we have those who are working remotely who are super qualified, right? So everyone that comes into our Irooze ecosystem is all qualified, divorce trained, and we really research and make sure that they have the right heart and the right intent at the end of the day.
Awesome. Okay. So you and Irooze are supporting the Canadian Collaborative Rocky Mountain Conference as a gold sponsor. Thank you so much. Why was it important for you to be a part of the event? And why is it important to collaborate and have a team approach?
So as I mentioned at the beginning, I learned from my own experiences. I started off my career as a divorce coach, and I'm talking close to 10 years ago. I had started creating a program in Montreal to work with different professionals who could all help in exactly what we're doing now, way before any of this really existed and it was like so popular. So I always knew and understood, even through my own divorce, that I made my biggest mistakes by just trusting a therapist and a lawyer, and how I could have gotten so much better help if I only knew what to do and who to go to. One thing I love about this conference is that it's very important to stay up to date with what is new, what's happening. I know that some of the guest speakers are judges. Maybe Linda, you can talk about that. And I think that's very important because as a professional who's been a divorce coach, I know that it's really hard to know what's happening in the courts, what's happening across your country, what's happening across US or Canada. So even if I'm located in Canada, it would be interesting and wise for me as a professional to know what's happening across the border. Why? Because it's very possible that it's going to come my way. And if I'm working with a client as a coach, as a specialist, whatever role I'm taking, it's important that I understand the bigger picture of what's possible. So rather than staying narrow-minded and just focused on my one job as a coach, I can go and help the consumer in such a bigger, more effective way by knowing what's happening and what's trending in the market. That's why I really love this conference, because this is what it's about. It's about learning, it's about education, it's about getting out there, it's about networking. It's about being part of something else than just you in your office alone in your four walls.
I think we wholeheartedly agree, and I apologize to Linda Long, who's been part of this interview, and I didn't introduce her at the beginning. So meet Linda. She's our co-lead in our steering committee for the conference, and she's a collaborative family law lawyer, arbitrator, and mediator. So Linda, is there anything that you'd like to ask Ravit about Irooze's involvement and how they work in the community?
Well, I just think that it's spectacular that you are a gold sponsor for the conference. And if I can just do a little plug on why people should attend the conference, this is more than just an out-of-court settlement conference. We have the courts involved in this conference. The courts that are working on a partnership model with out-of-court settlement processes, including the collaborative model. So we have the Reimagining Family Justice Services lead from the Court of King's Bench giving a keynote. We have introductions from the Supreme Court of Canada. We have the Law Society of Alberta as a gold sponsor of this conference, and we are all working to talk about what are we doing to collaborate as a model and collaborate as a concept and an idea. And that's why I was so excited by the Irooze concept, because you've been out there doing exactly what the collaborative model is doing. It's the people who need to hear about it, which is the professionals who are delivering services to families who do not want to be in that litigation model. And I know I've been a lawyer for 40 years. I said I either have to find a different way to be in the law or I have to get out of law because this litigation adversarial model is inconsistent with the needs of families. So I've been doing that sort of out there for all these years. And then there you are, Ravit, coming along and going, I was on the receiving end of all of that stuff. And I built a product that will sell people on, you don't have to do that litigation model. So we're all working together, and that's why we developed the theme, the cultures of collaboration. We have Indigenous culture, we have many other cultures, but what it is it's a settlement culture. What is the culture of collaboration that will settle cases and reach real results for parties, rather than having them in this really terrible place where they aren't able to talk to each other for the rest of their lives. And I became reinvigorated about this conference when I went on a cruise, and a gentleman from England was telling me about his 15-year-long horror story of litigation. And I described the collaborative model to him, and he burst into tears. Now, this British gentleman is not a guy who cries, but he cried because he did not know that there is a world of professionals like us, like you, Ravit, like you, Holly, that are out there trying to do this right for the people who are on the receiving end of a family restructuring. So I don't know if I asked you a question, Ravit, but I certainly gave you what I think.
Well, that's very important because one of the key pieces is that a lot of professionals try to knock on the doors of lawyers and they don't get past the receptionist and they get very deceived and discouraged of like, well, if the lawyers are not going to refer me business, what do I do and how do I do it? But you don't have to go to the lawyers. There are many other professionals who collaborate. There are many other professionals who could send and share business. And that's why I sort of built Irooze, because it's not based on competition or who's your best friend or who's your neighbor and all of that. It's really based on experience and who has the skills required. One thing I love that you said is that it's really about a settlement and how to make sure that they are able to settle out of court. So one of the key pieces that we focus on in Irooze is that we want to make sure that the person is taken care of holistically so that they don't come back in 6 months or a year or 2 years and renege or, come back out of desperation, despair, denial and say, oh, I wish I knew. I wish someone told me I could have done it differently. I wish I did, the I wish I ... is problematic. And that's what brings families back to court and it brings them back to fighting. So being part of a collaboration is every single person does their best job in their specialization to ensure that you have an overall picture. This is the ultimate solution.
The power of the team.
Absolutely.
And this is what this conference is about. It's a multidisciplinary conference about the power of the team in settlement-based divorce situations.
For the professional, and it's equally for the individual who's divorcing.
We really want to see a lot of professionals from everywhere. And so I just can't stress strongly enough. This is a conference about the collaborative attitude, the collaborative model. It is not for just collaborative professionals. This is to expose the world of professionals to the concept of collaboration and grow the model and grow the team.
Absolutely. And that you don't have to feel like if you have a client and let's say they have an issue and they're stalling the collaborative process, they're stalling something. Often enough when they're stalling means there's something going on which you may not know or understand unless you are a psychologist or a therapist, but there's a reason why they're stalling. And my job is to extract those reasons and say, hold on, let me help you with that and find the right professional to help you answer that one thing that's keeping you stalling from this process. So instead of losing the client, they will come back to Irooze. They could work a few hours with somebody and a specialist to help them. And then when they come back to you, they're a fresher person. What's better, lose a client because you have no idea why, or help that client and then you don't have to be a specialist or know who is out there doing all these things, because that's what we do at Irooze. And so
it's a human model. I've trained a lot of young lawyers over time, and the first training I give is when you enter that room, you're not going in there as a lawyer. You're going in there as a human, and you're meeting a human, and you're finding out about that human, and you might know a little law, but if you don't know how to meet the human needs, then you're not doing a service to that individual at all. And that's just, you've come to where you've come to outside of a formal model and you created something. And I came to where I came to outside of a formal model and created something. And now we call that ADR, and we call that settlement, and we call that collaboration. And then like-minded professionals who are as enthusiastic as Holly is and I am and Burl is on the steering committee, we call ourselves the Small But Mighty Steering Committee. We are wanting other professionals to come on down and come to Banff to the Fairmont and join us to have a really good party where we understand that collaboration is an attitude and it's infectious. It's such an infectious human attitude. And that's what we're doing, is we're having a good time making sure that people feel that there are these models out there that do not destroy, but build up.
I do want to extend it one step further and say that, anybody who's going through a divorce or separation at the moment and want to learn more about how they can support their family and their children, the Brain Science Resiliency Masterclass training on the Thursday really can support that in giving them more knowledge about how they can move forward and how they can support their family and support themselves, their own mental health.
Including the clients.
Including the client. So it's not just for professionals. It could be about the person who's
One-day standalone training on brain science and on the reimagining family justice system that's being produced by the courts and the community in a collaboration. Clients can come and hear what's going on. That means that I don't have to go into a litigation model, and they will hear that from the court. The court will be saying, we don't want you. We want you over here in brain science. We want you over here in collaboration. And we want to work in partnership with the community to make sure that we are not getting things before us that are completely unnecessary.
So it may not, it may be for the person who's going through the process, but it also their support group, whether, it's a minister or a counselor with the church, anybody who works with families that want to better support them as well. So I just have one last question for you, Ravit. What are you most looking forward to about joining us in Bounce this November?
Meeting wonderful people who are collaborative minded, hearing the wonderful training and educating myself just as every other professional is, staying up to date, knowing what the market trends are and what's happening out there across the US, across Canada, doesn't matter, it's all the same to me. And being part of something as beautiful as this. I love the intent behind this conference, and I'm proud to be sponsoring.
We're so happy you've joined us.
We truly are. Thank you so much for your support. And I think that's all we have for today.